Morning guys, welcome to another episode of We Detail Cars. As you can see behind me, a lovely Tesla Model X. Been using the family car for the last 4 or 5 years in quite desperate need of some TLC, so she's going to be corrective polishing, ceramic coated, calipers painted, glass sealed and interior deep clean. She'll be looking sweet.
The Tesla Model X was released in 2015 as Tesla's entry into the full-size SUV market, with its standout feature being the Falcon rear doors, being much loved among Tesla enthusiasts as well as setting a Guinness World Record for pulling a Boeing 787. And before we get too far into the video, I'd really appreciate if you could hit that subscribe button. As you can see, this Tesla is in a rather poor state overall. It's very dirty. It has been sat around for a few weeks prior to the start of this detail, as the owner was travelling internationally. I think these Model X's look really good, and one of my favourite features is definitely the electric rear doors, which seem to be loved and hated by the Tesla community. Now, prior to the detail beginning, we actually did perform a dechrome of the car, so all of the side trims have been turned from the silver to black. But the paint is the real problem here. As you can see, it's really heavily swirled. There's a little dent on the bonnet as well. I'm not sure if it's ever been detailed in the past, but in any event, it certainly hasn't been washed in the best way. Where the car's been sat around as well, several spiders have moved in and made a comfortable home. Onto the interior, there's a typical fingerprints and marks all over the touchscreen, and while the rest of the interior isn't really super dirty, clearly hasn't had a decent clean in a while. Okay, on to the first step, which is the wheels. We're using a degreaser and a stiff brush on the tyres, and a wheel cleaner is applied to help lift the dirt and any iron contaminants from the surface. A variety of brushes are used to get into all areas. We're also going to clean the wheel arches as they are very dirty. Now, I had totally forgotten at this point that the owner was having their brake calipers painted, which we'll get to later, but it would have just meant I could have saved time during the prep process and I could have cleaned the wheels when I removed them. However, it was a good opportunity to show you guys the process in full, so at least it wasn't time wasted. Onto the body now, and we're going to pre-rinse and snow foam the vehicle to help remove the dirt prior to the contact wash. This reduces the chances of introducing swirl marks and other damage into the paint. While the snow foam is dwelling, we'll use a brush to go around the trims and edges to ensure these are really clean, and then we'll move on to the 2-bucket wash. This bucket on the left is just plain water, and the bucket on the right has the water and shampoo mix. We're just going to zhuzh up the bucket and move on to the contact wash using a nice soft microfiber wash mitt, and we're going to work from the top down. We'll also clean all of the door shuts with a wash mitt and a brush, and you can also see why the 2-bucket method is important. Check out the difference between the rinse and the wash bucket. Next up is the decontamination step. The first thing to do is apply an iron fallout remover, which will turn embedded iron into a solution that you can rinse away. We also use a tar removal product on the paint, which, as the name suggests, helps to remove tar. We will always chemically decontaminate first, and then clay the paint if necessary. This is all followed up by a very thorough rinse to remove any traces of chemicals. Just a personal note, I really like the interior of the Tesla. Being a little bit more of an analog car guy, I do prefer having the physical buttons rather than doing everything through the screen. Some of the switchgear might be familiar if you own a Mercedes.
We've done the wash outside and we've used a iron fallout remover and a tar removal product. However, there is still some roughness to the paint underhand, so we do need to clay it prior to polishing. Clay bar, this one's by Built Hamber. We have a clay towel as well. You might have heard of these. They both work in a very similar way. They're both abrasive, which is how they lift the embedded contamination from the paint. Both of these tools are excellent at their intended task. However, they don't come without downsides, which is that they will add additional marks to the paint. But as we are machine polishing the paint afterwards, we don't need to worry about those. I wouldn't recommend using either of these products unless you are going to machine the paint afterwards. We are now going to start the machine polishing on the Tesla, which is my favourite part of the detailing process. The paint on this car is in really bad condition, so we're going to restore that. We're going to be doing a multi-stage polishing on this. We quote 90 to 95% swirl correction on this service, which means it's about as good as you can reasonably get without starting to do wet sanding and whatnot. Obviously, we're happy to do that, but a lot of the time it's outside the client's budget or it's not a good return on the investment. I'm just going to show you the paint once again before we start. So this is on the bonnet or hood if you are from America. Hello, little fly. Off you go. So yeah, as you can see from the LED lights in our ceiling, already the paint is in pretty bad condition. We're going to add some additional lights from our handheld torch. And you can see the swirl marks are pretty much everywhere. I say it's awful. It's not really any worse than you would expect from a daily driven car that's not been washed in the correct manner for several years. But these can all be removed and be brought back to a swirl-free mirror finish. As part of our standard multi-stage polishing option, we're going to use some microfiber cutting pads, might use a foam cutting pad as well. That's going to get through the majority of these heavy swirls. We're going to remove all of these first. Then at the end, once all of the swirls have been removed, we'll go on the car for a second time, do a refinement step, which will remove any hazing or hologramming from the paint surface and make sure that we have a perfect, clear finish. Polishing pass 1 has been completed, so I am now just taking a very soft, thick pile microfiber towel to buff the polish off. Okay, wow. That's actually come up very well for a single stage of polishing. I will grab the camera in just a second to show you. It's using one of our panel prep and oil removing products. This one particularly is called Synergy Prep to remove polishing oils from the surface. So not that we do, but some polishes have some fillers and some oils in them which can mask swirls instead of actually removing them. So just a quick note, this might be the reason sometimes when you have your car detailed it'll look great and then after one careful wash it'll look swirly again. Just something to be mindful of. Get a true finish after a wipe down. Let's grab the camera. Move that. So this is after a single stage of polishing on this Tesla paint. So that is a marked improvement. I'm very happy with that. But I might hit it again one more time to make sure that we have a complete removal. But then yeah, onto the rest of the bonnet. Just one very small note to make: when you're using a microfiber polishing pad, it's very recommended to have a compressed air feed to hand to be able to blow the pad out. Got a bit of dust in my eye, lovely. Because otherwise the fibers will get stuck down and the pad won't cut as well. You can use a pad brush, but these tend to not work quite as good, and you'll find that your pads get clogged up more quickly. Now that the bonnet has been completed, we'll move on to the rest of the car, starting with the pillars. You can see here the usual swirls as well as this nasty scratch. However, after the polishing treatment, this has been removed. This pad has now seen better days. Even though I'm blowing it out regularly with the air compressor, it's just collected way too much bits of clear coat and just rubbish that it's not polishing effectively, which is why it took me a little bit longer to do the spoiler here. So it's time for this to be thrown into the wash and I'll grab a new pad. Okay, now onto the brake calipers. These are one area that really let the car down. They're not the nicest finish, and with some use have started to fade. Painting the calipers is a great way to refresh the overall look of the car. The rear calipers were in a much better condition than the front. I'm not sure if they've been replaced or not, but in any event, we'll start off with using a sanding block to help scuff up the surface. And we also use a wire brush to further clean and prep everything to ensure a good finish. Next up is to mask the brakes. Things like the bleed nipples and pads
and also the rest of the car gets covered in a plastic sheet to prevent any overspray. And now onto the fun part, which is the spraying. We're going to start off with a high build primer. This helps to fill in any small indentations and imperfections in the surface and ensure the paint sticks down nicely. I put on 2 to 3 thin coats of this and then we'll move on to the colour. This is a nice bright red, which is basically the same colour that's used on the Tesla performance models. I'm using a heat gun which helps the paint apply more nicely and is less likely to run, a trick I learned from a friend many years ago. I'll dust a light coat first and then a couple of thicker coats to ensure that there's complete coverage. Now it's time to apply the Tesla decals. Once the colour has fully dried, the decals are applied and then sealed in with a lacquer to protect everything and give that amazing durable finish. You might notice there's some red paint on the tape on the hub, and I use this as a reference as to know when the paint is dry enough to put the sticker on, as you don't want to put it on too soon, it will damage the paint. Also remember your safety equipment. At the very least you should be wearing a respirator, such as I am, to stop the paint going into your lungs, and you should be wearing gloves and eye protection too, even though I'm not. The final part is just a bit of heat gun action to help everything cure, and then it needs time to fully dry, which in most cases is around 12 hours. Here I'm masking up the car, ready for the remainder of the polishing. These textured black plastics can become stained with polish permanently if you do catch a machine on them. It's best to always protect them. After several steps of polishing, you can see the huge difference between the uncorrected door and the corrected one. There's this weird sanding mark on the rear quarter panel. It had appeared to have been painted at some point in the past. Not a bad job, but it just needed removing.
Now, after the whole car has been cut or corrected, it's time to move on to the refinement step, where we use a jeweler's polish and a softer pad to remove any hazing or holograms from the paint that we might have put in during the initial correction. This really brings the gloss levels to the highest that they possibly can be and ensures a perfect reflection in the sun or other direct lights.
The dirty work on the Tesla is all done. We've corrected it, we've refined it, and we've also done the brake calipers, and they're looking really good, really pops against the grey paintwork. And now the final part of the detailing process for the exterior is to give the car the final wipe down prior to the application of a ceramic coating.
The coating that we're going for here is Labocosmetica STC and HPC. It's a 2-layer ceramic coating and it offers up to 6 years of protection. STC is the base layer, which is applied first and gives you some physical protection from light wash marring. And then HPC, which is applied afterwards, gives you the really strong chemical resistance and ultra hydrophobic effect. We also applied a durable glass sealant to all exterior glass. This needed to be polished due to some water staining. It was done earlier in the process. I just lost the footage for it, so you'll have to believe me. Final jobs on the exterior is to sort these dulled plastics, which look really tired and just thirsty, for want of a better phrase. A durable plastic dressing was applied and it did take a couple of coats to achieve an even finish. You can see the difference between the undressed plastic and the dressed plastic here. It really does add a nice contrast against the paint.
Right, we're doing the inside of the Tesla now. We've done all the work necessary on the outside. It's been polished, ceramic coated, the glass has all been cleaned and coated as well. It's time to do the interior. The interior is not in too bad of a condition. However, there are a few deeper stains here and there, and obviously a lot of dirt and dust, fingerprints on the screen, etc. So we're going to be working hard to get rid of all of those marks. We'll give everything a nice deep clean, and it will be looking like a brand new car at the end.
Now the first step, as always, is a thorough hoover to remove the majority of the dirt and dust from the carpets and seats. It was, however, very hot today, and one great thing about Tesla and other electric cars is you can always put the air conditioning on while you work. as an example, you can see the seat is looking a bit faded and tired. So we're going to use a microfiber scrub pad on this along with a gentle antibacterial cleaner, and we'll buff it down with a microfiber towel, leave the seat looking as new. The rubber floor mats needed a good clean as well, so I applied an all-purpose cleaner and gave them a good scrub with a dual density brush. And there was also only one carpet in the car, so this was cleaned with the pressure washer, a drill brush, and then extracted once back inside. The last part of the detail was to clean the screen, so we put it into the cleaning mode and used a dry microfiber towel to remove any dust and fingerprints from the surface without damaging the screen. Guys, this Tesla has been completed now and it looks incredible, completely transformed from when it came in. You can see the brake calipers looking amazing. The rest of the paint is just amazing. Look at that. As always, if you made it to the end of the video, really appreciate it. Love your support, love your comments and your feedback. Thank you so much. If you do enjoy our content, it would mean a lot to us if you hit that subscribe button, smash the like button and send it to a friend. And yeah, we will see you in the next episode.